Now we're cooking.
Well, good afternoon.
I know. We kind of got a little bit of a late start because
today.
my brain is not thinking, but that's okay.
Yeah, mine wasn't. And I had some cleaning to do this morning.
You had a party at your house?
Yeah, my parents' house. It was my mom's 65th birthday. And
She doesn't look a day over 16.
I know,
don't think I've ever,
she's a...
I don't think I've ever actually met your mother, so.
Have you?
I don't think so. I met
She
your
doesn't
dad
look like
when he
she's
was
65.
like, Brianna, come power wash the cars.
Thanks, Dad.
It's not even a joke.
Yeah, that actually happened.
It did.
I got my car power washed that day.
He did.
You
I think
met
he was
my
just
dad.
showing off for me.
He was, because that's literally never happened. No, so my mom turned 65. Bonita Filemeyer. And my little brother graduated college last week, so they had a joint party. And I cooked all the food for it. We made little meatballs, because we had a bunch of meat from our cousin's cows. And I made some Italian beef little sandwiches.
Girl.
With giardiniera. And you know what that is? It's like the pickled like cauliflower and carrots and stuff.
I just didn't know them fancy terms.
Giardiniera. I don't think I ever say it right. Giardiniera. And then I always think I'm saying giardia. And then I'm like, that's a different condiment / disease.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that a disease?
It's not. It is.
Okay.
It's a gross one.
I mean, I'm no doctor, but.
Yeah, so we did that party and I stayed there till midnight and didn't clean, so I went over this morning and helped.
Because you're a good girl.
I'm a very good daughter. But yeah, that's what I was doing. Smoking cigars with my brother.
Well, you smell great.
Yeah.
I'm not even being facetious. I don't even smell it on you. Usually
Okay,
when
good,
I smoke
I
cigars.
might not have showered.
Yeah, when I smoke cigars,
gross.
I smell like a goddamn ashtray.
It
And
is
I
probably
feel like
just-
my entire room smells like it. Like a campfire.
I don't think the barn smelled like a cigar today.
Oh, well, that's
or
good.
I'm just used to it.
Well, that could be it too.
Yeah,
Who
we'll see.
knows?
I should probably wash my pillow.
Well, probably.
I'm gross. Let's stop talking about this. Yeah, so that was my weekend.
That's a good weekend.
How was your weekend?
It was good. I went out with my friend Rosie's little birthday. I went out for 1 drink, and then I proceeded to have 7 drinks. I don't think it was 7, but it was pretty close to that. Yeah. And it was graduation weekend. So graduation. Obviously, I graduated from college.
A long time ago.
A long time ago when English was a different language. That doesn't even make any sense. Anyway, so we went to, we started at Elliot's, which is where you usually end the night, but we started there because, this girl and her friends just go 0 to 60. That's why they're awesome. So, anyway. So then I ended up at East Coast, was tepping. I tap danced right into there. So, it was like stepping into a goddamn time machine. It was full of 90s music and really old men. So not really, like a shitty time machine,
That's not the time you want to go to.
No, it's not. Anyway, so we saw some really awesome dancing from some people
Some oldies?
from oldies to guys that thought they were just like God's gift to women.
Well,
but
they
were
probably were.
They probably were. And they're like, why am I still single? And I'm like, I don't know, sir. But
Maybe
I'm
you
too
should
sober
look
for
in the
this
mirror
shit. Yeah.
at your dance moves.
Oh yeah. It was a little rough. But anyway.
At least he was letting it loose.
He was. You just let your...
It might not have worked in his favor, but...
No. But you know what? God bless him. Let your freak flag fly, man.
You got to.
Yeah. And then we ended up at Bondi, which... anyone that is not in Fort Collins, it's where all the babies go. So it was a
lots of
playpen of
babies.
chaos. Let me just say that, okay? God. It's a pretty good analogy. I'm not
That
gonna lie.
is, I loved it. A playpen of chaos. Yeah, that's
It was,
literally
but it was
what
graduation
Bondi looks
weekend,
like.
so you know how that goes. I don't even know why, but I never was a big club person either in my 20s even. So I'm like, what am I doing here? I need to go to bed. Yeah, so it was, and then I woke up.
Sodas.
Yes, and then I woke up with a hangover from hell, and I felt better like at 8 p.m. that night, and then, yeah, the end.
That's it.
Ugh.
And then you sort of ate ramen, but that's all.
That was a different story where I almost burnt the house down. But that's okay. I didn't, fine. So that's good.
We're sitting on your couches right now.
Yeah, just in the ambers of ashes.
Yes.
Like people at King's Landing.
At where?
Never mind. You don't get it because you don't watch Game of Thrones, so it's fine.
Yes.
Moving
Stop
on.
giving me Game of Thrones references. I don't watch it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I did hear that everyone, like, hates the last season.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's up in arms about it.
People are trying to get them to rewrite it.
Yeah, which is like,
no, this isn't your story. It's the creators.
It's super silly because it's like, it's just so, like Ross would say, like, it's just so silly. It's definitely not my favorite season either, for sure. But at the same time,
does it feel like they rushed it?
Yeah, it feels like they rushed it. But at the same time, everyone's a fucking critic. I can't imagine what the pressure that those writers have on them. But at the same time, I'm still pissed about it. But it's just like, okay, you go and you make your $100 million show and you tell me about it. So it's kind of like that, you know? It's just like, you do it better. But it's just, it's hard because you love, and I think the other part of it is like, a lot of this is ending after 8 years and people love these characters. And I think people wanted to see these characters go in a different way. And who am I to judge? I don't get like $100 million show. So
we're about to.
Okay.
Mark my words.
Okay.
May 19th, 2019.
All right. If it ever happens, you can just be like, you know what? I want to take a break and I'm going to pause and I'm going to roll back the tape.
Yep.
And I'll be like, all right.
Yeah, you better not delete this.
Oh, I won't. I'll be sipping my $9,000 martini when you say it to me.
That's a little excessive.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
$100,000 is not that much. I'm not drinking $9,000 martinis with fucking gold flecks in it and fucking truffles and rabbit
testicles.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know
really
why rabbit
expensive.
testicles would be that expensive.
They're super hard to come by.
Because they're little?
Yeah.
No,
and they're so fast.
Perfect.
The balls. Just
the balls.
Not the rabbit.
Well, anyway, so what did you roll last week, Brie?
Well, do we want to talk about what we're drinking?
Oh, I forgot.
It's really creative.
It's very different than our passion dragon or our love dragon.
The love dragon.
Our love dragon last week. It's pretty much the same thing, though, kind of. Well, not really.
No,
same
it
thing,
don't have
kinda,
that
really,
dragon
not really.
fruit.
It doesn't.
Vodka.
It don't.
It's vodka orange juice,
it's vodka.
guys.
I don't know why I was looking at it like, how do I explain this screwdriver?
Oh, yeah, that is what a screwdriver is.
Yeah, it is.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's orange juice and vodka.
Well, but we're drinking screwdrivers.
We are, but we were doing fancy screwdrivers. I went the extra mile and I got me some mango in that orange juice.
That's some good shit.
It is some good shit.
So anyway, now that we know what we're drinking
screwdrivers. Woo. Okay.
Woo-hoo. Real creative.
Yeah, I know. It's
whatever.
Good.
It's
good.
good.
I get my vitamins. It's fine.
Yeah. So I rolled crime, which I haven't done a crime story yet.
I know. I'm pretty excited about it. I kind of hope it's nothing that I've heard before, because that'll be like, I'll just be like looking at you with just big old brown eyes and
I
just.
Can't wait. So yeah, I rolled crime. What'd you roll?
I rolled me some science.
Science.
It's a good one.
You haven't gotten.
I know I've gotten science.
Oh no,
the last
you did.
Science I got, I felt like I cheated because I was like forensic,
science.
so I didn't do it this time. I actually
That's
did a little
not
more
cheating.
legit. I know, but that's just what I like. I felt a little concerned about myself. I'm like, I just like to talk about death.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, give me those
it's
shifty
good.
eyes.
Me too.
It's fine. Anyway,
I was telling my dad about this story this morning, and he was like, "Why are you talking about that?" I was like, "Because I rolled crime, Dad."
Come on.
And then he was like, "Oh, that's neat and interesting." You freak.
Great. She's like,
I'll
well,
pray for you.
Perfect. I know he will.
Probably.
He does every day.
He does.
Yeah. So should we just jump into it?
Yeah, let's jump on in. So, my story is about two men who committed the first thrill crime that was ever convicted. They were convicted of the first, like, thrill crime. Like, they literally killed for the fun of it. It was no preconceived.
What year was this?
This was 1924.
Oh.
And the two men who were not really men, they were boys. Leopold and Loeb. So Nathan F. Leopold.
I have never heard of this before.
And Richard A. Loeb.
I'm excited.
And the reason, I've never heard of this story before either, but the reason I came across it was because I was listening to one of my favorite human beings podcasts, Conan O'Brien.
Which, again, I don't think I know. I don't know why I said again, but I did not know that he had a podcast. So that was a wonderful surprise for me.
And I've always loved Conan O'Brien. Also, me and Shay found out we both love Conan O'Brien. I don't know a lot of people that love him, though.
How do you not love him? He's a tall weirdo.
Ginger.
He's a ginger tall
weirdo. Who is the
weirdow.
goofiest motherfucker
Again,
you've ever
I've told
seen.
you this several times, but, like, it's the legs, because he, like, does, like, this spidery, like, like, thing, and it's so, like, it's like if a giraffe was trying to do, like, physical comedy. It cracks me up every time.
He's like a giant cartoon character.
Yeah, he's exactly what that's exactly what he is.
He's amazing.
That's
and
great.
I've always loved him. And I just realized.
Yeah.
What is the word I'm looking for?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
My love for him. And because me and Chris, have you seen Conan Without Borders on Netflix?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God.
In my queue.
I haven't laughed this hard watching this show, like, in years. Like, he makes me laugh so fucking hard. Anyways, and then I found out he had a podcast, so I was listening to it, and he was talking with,
Is it like as funny as when Chelsea Handler interacts with children?
Oh,
because it's that's pretty funny.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
It's very similar. So he was talking to Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally, and he was comparing, I think he was comparing them to Leopold and Loeb or something for some reason. And he was like, kids, if you don't know who that is, do yourself a favor and look up the greatest crime story of all time. And I was like, what? Done.
Right.
And it was perfect because I was listening to it last week and I was like, well, now I know my crime story.
Perfect.
Anyways, thank you, Conan O'Brien, when you listen to this podcast.
You need to just start hashtagging Conan O'Brien onto doesn't even matter. Like, you're going to post about Lisa Frank's socks, hashtag Conan O'Brien. Like, who gives a fuck?
You're right. I'm just going to start hashtagging him.
Yes.
To him. Anyway, till he finds us.
Yes.
And then he'll realize we're his biggest fans.
Yes.
And
he'll put
be
a
a
restraining
guest.
order on it. It'll be great.
It'll be perfect.
Perfect.
Anyway, so Leopold and Loeb. They're two celebrated Chicago murders of 1924. And they confessed to the kidnapping and murder of 14-year-old boy Robert, a.k.a. Bobby Franks, for an intellectual thrill.
An intellectual one.
Yep.
Not just a random thrill. All right, got it.
It was also kind of it was random.
Okay.
But so anyways, Nathan and Richard, they were both wealthy and intellectually brilliant boys. Leopold graduated from the University of Chicago at age 18, and Loeb graduated from the University of Michigan at 17. Leopold and Loeb had met in the summer of 1920, and they both grew up in a neighborhood called Kenwood, which was an exclusive Jewish neighborhood in the south side of Chicago. And their parents were just very wealthy.
Oh. Okay.
So Leopold was a brilliant student who matriculated at the University of Chicago at the age of 15. So that's when he started. He also earned the distinction as an amateur ornithologist, which is someone who studies birds.
Oh, fancy.
He published 2 papers in the Auk, which was a leading ornithological Ornithological Journal in the United States.
Perfect.
His family was wealthy and well-connected. His father was an astute businessman who had inherited a shipping company and had made a second fortune in aluminum can and paper box manufacturing.
Riveting.
So Richard Loeb was also from a wealthy family. His father was the vice president of Sears, Roebuck and Company, possessed an estimated fortune of $10 million, which was like
Jesus.
obviously a lot, but back then was like a billionaire basically. I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but it's a lot of money no matter what.
Yeah, no shit.
Loeb had distinguished himself early, graduating from the University High School at the age of 14, and then he went to the University of Chicago that same year.
Okay. So these were educated.
They were
guys.
super educated, really smart.
Okay.
So the two teenagers did grow up together, and they were friends. But then they both went to their colleges while they were fucking like 15.
Right.
And then they had renewed their friendship upon Loeb's return to Chicago in the fall of 1923.
Okay.
And they also ended up falling in love.
I was gonna say fucking each other.
Yep. So, Loeb loved to play a dangerous game, and he always sought to raise his stakes. He liked to do vandalism a lot, and it was a source of intense exhilaration for him. And then once him and Leopold were friends and lovers, he would have Leopold accompany him on his escapades. And Leopold was like obsessed with Loeb. They were both pretty obsessed with each other. Loeb was kind of left Leopold at an arm's distance, but Leopold was like...
He was like, I gotta have more. It's like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just tell you, though, like, to be like the 1920s, and I wish, like, well, obviously, you could not be openly gay in public, but I would have loved to just see, like, two gay men on, like, those, those old bicycles that, like, one big wheel and just, like... I don't know why they're British, but like just
are
holding hands in their bowler's hats and their curly mustaches and like giving each other like butterfly kisses. I don't know. I just would have loved to see that.
That's probably what they did when they weren't being little fucking hoodlums.
Then there's that.
So this admiration that Leopold had for Loeb just reinforced Loeb's self-image as a master criminal.
Okay.
And Loeb was super egotistical. He was always bragging about his accomplishments. He was a little...
narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Leopold really liked to brag about his accomplishments. He was very pompous, it seemed like. And he also had a tedious obsession with the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. I think that's how you say it. The Nazi philosopher, which is crazy because they were both Jewish boys, but Leopold was obsessed with Nietzsche and his philosophies. He would talk endlessly about the mythical Superman who, because he was Superman, stood outside the law, beyond any moral code that might constrain the actions of ordinary men. Even murder, Leopold claimed, was an acceptable act for a Superman to commit if the deed gave him pleasure. Morality did not apply in such case.
This sounds
and that was all like a lot of what Nietzsche would talk about.
Yeah, this sounds like a bunch of, like a way more sinister, beautiful mind kind of scenario where you're like too smart for your own good and just like you go crazy essentially.
Yeah. So the boys did commit several burglaries together. They set fires to a couple different places. They would rob different places too together, but none of the stuff that they were doing was making the papers, and that bothered them, that they weren't getting recognized for these crimes they were doing.
Jesus.
And on November 10th, 1923, Leopold drove Loeb to his former fraternity, and because he wanted to like rob his old fraternity. They robbed
it's just what
they
you
stole
do.
$80, watches, knives, typewriters, but that it still didn't get any recognition. And they were like, Loeb it upset both of them. They were like, they really wanted to commit a perfect crime. And so they set out to figure out what their perfect crime was. And they decided that kidnapping and the murder of a child, demanding ransom from the parents, would be the perfect crime. Because no one was doing that for no reason back then yet. So they were like the first like...
Psychopaths? Yeah.
That were convicted.
Jesus fucking Christ. The perfect crime involves murdering a child.
Yeah, perfect.
It doesn't make any sense.
So, this is also weird, which I didn't plan this either, but on the afternoon of May 21st, 1924.
Girl!
I know, dude. It's
the 19th.
Literally 2 days
away.
When this comes out, it'll be after that, but it's crazy.
Hashtag Destiny 30-ish.
Yeah, we are just destined to do these stories.
Yeah.
They're just so relevant to the time.
They are.
Anyway, so on the afternoon of May 21st, Leopold and Loeb rented a car. Mm-hmm. They drove the rental car slowly around the streets of the south side of Chicago looking for a possible victim. Literally driving around just to pick a little boy
So
out
it
of
really
the blue.
was like, it was premeditated, but they didn't have like...
They didn't have a victim for... They
didn't stalk them. They were just like, we're just going to go out and we're going to fucking cherry pick it.
Because someone did bad to them.
The worst kind of cherry picking.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Yeah. So at 5 o'clock, after driving around Kenwood for 2 hours, they were ready to abandon their kidnapping for another day because they couldn't decide on who they wanted to kill that day.
That guy's
They're
just
fucking 17 and 18, by the way.
Perfect. But honestly, back then, you're already kind of half dead. So it's only 1924.
And they had already graduated college. They were,
Yeah. But still, especially if they've already graduated college, these guys are way beyond their years. But at the same time, we know now that the brain doesn't stop developing till so they're adolescents and they're fucking stupid. Yeah.
And psycho.
Yeah. Well, no shit.
So, they were about to abandon their plan. And then Loeb suddenly saw his cousin, Bobby Franks, and also I was reading a couple different stories, and I watched a little documentary.
Poor
and
kid.
The documentary said that it wasn't his cousin, but this main article I'm reading is from the Smithsonian, so I figured it's probably
more
fucking legit.
Yeah.
And also the documentary was kind of old, and this is an updated story, I think.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so Loeb suddenly saw his cousin, Bobby Franks, walking south on the opposite side of the road. And Bobby's father, Loeb knew, was a wealthy businessman who could definitely pay the ransom of $10,000 they were going to ask for. Mm-hmm. So he tapped. So then they were like, well, we found our victim. I know Bobby's got some money.
That's fucked up, probably, because if that kid is, idolizes...
Mm-hmm. He idolized both of them. They were also well known in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
they were trustworthy boys.
Yeah, so he probably was just oh, my awesome intellectual cousin wants to pay attention to me. Mm-hmm. Poor kid.
Exactly. So they were trying to persuade the boy to come into the front seat, and they were talking to him for a little bit, and they were like, you don't mind us taking you around the block, do you? Do you want us to just give you a ride home? And Bobby was like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Just get in your car. You're my fucking cousin.
What could happen? So
Bobby got in the car, and they had a chisel in the back seat. I think there's mixed
kind of how he died. Yeah.
But Loeb, they said, was in the back seat, and he reached over the seat, grabbed the boy from behind with his left hand, covering Bobby's mouth to stop him from crying out, and he brought the chisel down on the back of his head.
Oh, poor pumpkin.
He pounded the chisel into the skull with as much force as possible, but the boy was still conscious.
He was still conscious?
He was still conscious.
After the
fourth blow, finally, it gashed a large hole in the boy's forehead. Blood from the wound was everywhere in this rental. They rented a car to do this.
In 1924.
Yeah, dude.
They're
just gonna rent this car to kill a kid.
They were the start of It's a Rental, Don't Be Gentle. They're like, just commit murders in it. It's fine. That'll buff out.
I've never heard that saying.
We paid the $50 insurance, so it doesn't matter.
So if there's a little blood or a lot, it's fine.
We found a deer and tried to rescue it. We didn't know.
Don't test it.
You've never heard of the term, it's a rental dog gentle?
No.
That's what my dad said. Maybe he made it up because he wasn't very nice to rental cars.
Great.
Dad. Anyway, go on.
So blood from the wound was everywhere, spreading across the street.
Ugh.
The seat, sorry.
I was like,
splashed onto Leopold's trousers and was spilling onto the floor. And Bobby was still conscious, apparently, at this point.
Oh, my God.
Then Loeb reached down and pulled Bobby suddenly upwards over the front seat into the back of the car. So I guess he was in the front seat. Sorry, I got confused there.
I mean, I'm assuming this is all happening at night.
Nope. Not happening at night. Happening in the day. Forward. It's probably like 3 in the afternoon, I think.
Shut the fuck up.
It's like the afternoon. These kids were getting out of school.
And where was this happening?
Chicago. South Side.
Fucking Chicago.
But in like a wealthy neighborhood.
Which is even more... Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
I'll let you get to that.
So, Loeb reached down, pulled Bobby to the back seat of the car. He jammed a rag down the boy's throat, stuffing it down as hard as possible. He tore off a large strip of tape and taped his mouth shut. And finally, Bobby's moaning and crying stopped. No. Finally.
Wow, this kid really fought for his life.
Yeah, dude. Little 14-year-old Bobby Franks.
Poor kid. That's a way to go out.
Yeah, dude. So Leopold and Loeb. Oh, also on this documentary, there's this guy, this old man interviewed, and he apparently was one of the boys that they were thinking about killing. Mm-hmm. And the only reason he usually took that same exact route, and the boys knew this boy.
Right.
And this little boy always took that same route to go to his house, but the only reason he didn't that day was because he had a dentist appointment. And then that little boy ended up having to change schools because he was like super famous. Like, you were almost killed by Leopold and Loeb, because like this was like the first giant crime.
It was like if Nancy Grace
States
was there, she would have blown this story right up.
She would have. So, anyways, Leopold and Loeb had expected to carry out the perfect crime, but as they disposed of the body
in broad daylight, fucking dumbasses.
Oh. Again,
sorry.
Actually, back up. So this was in daylight, but they decided to wait till it got dark to dispose of the body. That was smarter.
Yeah, that was something.
So they went out for hot dogs and root beers while they waited with Bobby Franks bleeding and dead in the back seat of their rental car, and they're just eating hot dogs and root beers waiting for it to get dark.
A jolly good time.
What a wonderful afternoon.
It's like a little day date.
Yeah.
But
these two were undertones. Crazy.
No shit.
So they waited till it got dark.
But that really that really kind of hones in the fact like these kids were children. I mean, I know again back in the 20s, like when you were 18 and weren't fucking probably betrothed or whatever, like, you know, you're already like the clock's a ticking. But still, I mean, the fact that they got like hot dogs and root beers just says like they're just a couple kids. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
Children.
Jesus.
Lots of fucked up kids nowadays too.
Yeah.
So as they disposed of the body in a culvert at a remote spot several miles south of Chicago, a pair of eyeglasses fell from Leopold's jacket onto the muddy ground. And these weren't just any eyeglasses. They were like super expensive. No one had these eyeglasses because they were super rich and wealthy, and he just dropped those. And he dropped those on accident.
Dumbass.
Whoopsie
daisy.
So they fell from Leopold's jacket onto the muddy ground. Upon returning to the city, Leopold dropped the ransom letter into the post box. It was going to get to the family in the morning. So then the following day, a passerby spotted the body and notified the police, and the Franks family were able to confirm that the identity was, in fact, Bobby.
That's so sad.
And then the perfect crime had unraveled, and now there was no longer any thought on part of Leopold and Loeb of attempting to collect the ransom because now they had already found the body. So they wrote a ransom note, even though he was dead, and they were like, oh, your boy's fine, but they obviously found him dead.
But they wanted money?
Yeah, that was their crime. They were like, we're going to kill this kid, we're going to get $10,000, and then no one's ever going to, like, we're just going to fucking get off scot-free.
And then wait, where did they put him?
They put him like a couple miles south of Chicago, like out in like I think
like they'll never look
or
here.
something. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But again, I get it.
Also, they didn't have any like,
but at the same time,
no one had ever done anything like this before.
Right, and I get that. Like too, at the same time, it's just like it was back in the 20s. I mean, a few miles could have been like 20 or 50 because who's gonna go out looking, and they probably don't have a bunch of fucking drugs or like cadaver dogs and shit like that. But anyway.
No.
Wow. So they wrote a ransom. They're like, we're going to get $10,000 and whatever.
Yeah. And I think that was also it was like another way that they're like, oh yeah, it'll throw them off and we'll be able to leave.
Yeah. Gives us more time to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. So by tracing Leopold's ownership of the eyeglasses, the state's attorney, Robert Crowe, was able to determine that Leopold and Loeb were the leading suspects because, like I said, I think he was one of two people in that, like, in Chicago, in the country, to have these glasses or something.
Yeah. So
it was like, all right, it can be one of two people, and the other guy that had the glasses were like, he was one of three people. The other two guys had super solid alibis, and then Leopold did not. So yeah.
Dang.
They were then thought of
and
as
it was
his
cousin. Jesus.
Yeah. Fucked up.
God.
So 10 days after the murder, on May 31st, both boys ended up confessing and demonstrated to the state's attorney how they had killed Bobby Franks.
Wow.
So they ended up admitting, because I mean, it was like there's no other person this could have been. They tried. So I guess Leopold tried to say that he was hiking over there like a day or two before, and his glasses just must have fallen out. But then
they just fell off my face.
And then I guess somehow he was like trying to show like how it just easily could have fallen out, and they weren't falling out. So they're like, "You're a fucking liar."
Yeah. And the coincidence is a little too,
Yeah, too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
So Crowe, the attorney, the state attorney, boasted to the press that it would be the most complete case ever presented to a grand jury, and that the defendants would certainly hang. Because back in those days, I mean, you got the death penalty if you were found.
Oh yeah, for sure,
as a murderer. So Leopold and Loeb had confessed and shown the police crucial evidence, the typewriter used for the ransom letter, and that linked them to the crime. So Crowe quickly realized that this murder would be a sensation, obviously. Leopold admitted that they killed Bobby solely for the thrill of the experience. This is a direct quote that is fucked from Leopold. "A thirst for knowledge is highly commendable, no matter what extreme pain or injury it may inflict upon others," Leopold had told a newspaper reporter. "A 6-year-old boy is justified in pulling the wings from a fly, if so by doing he learns that without wings the fly is helpless."
What?
You're psycho, little boy. Especially if you're fucking reading Nietzsche and fucking, holy crap.
I just wanted to tear the boy's wings off to see what he would do.
Yeah. And
jackass.
Yeah. So the defendants' wealth, their intellectual ability, the high regard within Chicago for their families, and their capricious nature of the homicide, everything combined would make this crime one of the most intriguing murders in the history of Cook County, and like one of the most sensational murders of all time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the families of Loeb and Leopold hired a man named Clarence Darrow as their defense attorney. Mm-hmm. And by 1894, Darrow had achieved notoriety within the Cook County as a clever speaker, an astute lawyer, and a champion of the weak and defenseless. So they were like, he was like the best defense lawyer like of the time. And they were like, I think they paid him around like $1 million to
oh my God,
be their lawyer. That was rumored. Also,
but still,
I think Darrow ended up saying they paid him $100,000, but still back then, $100,000 was a lot of fucking money too.
Jesus.
So Darrow was passionately opposed to the death penalty. He saw it as barbaric and vengeful punishment that served no purpose except to satisfy the mob. The trial would provide him with the means to persuade the American public that the death penalty had no place in the modern judicial system.
Okay.
So Darrow believed that crime was a medical problem, and the courts, guided by psychiatry, should abandon punishment as futile, and in its place should determine the proper course of medical treatment for the prisoner.
It was a mental problem.
Yeah. Which
okay, could be justified. Okay, I get that.
Which I think, I mean, obviously these people doing this have fucking issues.
So was it like, did they want to like give them like fucking lobotomies? Because back then that was like the treasure trove of all, like, just to cure all mental ailments.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, it might have been later though too. That might have been later. It might not have been the 20s, but like they would just go, it's problem solved.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, probably. That's what he was trying to get them to do.
Jesus. So he believed.
Oh wait.
So he thought that they would be better off in like a mental asylum, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Like the criminally insane.
And so Crow, the state attorney, believed that crime would decline only through a more rigorous application of the law, and criminals were fully responsible for their actions and should be treated as such. And so this set the stage for an epic courtroom battle, because they were both, obviously on the opposite sides, but that's how most courtroom battles go. So anyway, so basically Darrow ended up hiring some psychiatrists to prove his point of that these kids were fucking mental, which they fucking were.
Right.
But, and also I thought this was kind of weird. Back then, psychiatrists were called alienists.
Alienists?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
That is very weird.
So basically he just wanted to plead that they were insane. So pleading insanity, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So Darrow obviously knew his clients were guilty, and they had already even confessed.
Put that closer. There you go. Okay, go for it.
So Darrow obviously, like, his clients were guilty. They had already pled guilty before the trial. But nevertheless, he wished the judge to consider 3 mitigating factors in determining their punishment, because they were pretty much destined for being hung.
Right. No shit.
So, and the mitigating factors were their age, their guilty plea, and their mental condition. And by pleading them guilty, Darrow avoided a trial by jury. And
okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
So the judge, his name was Caverly. He presided over a hearing to determine the punishment, and it might range from the death penalty to a minimum of 14 years in prison. So Darrow had turned this case on its head. He no longer needed to argue insanity in order to save Leopold and Loeb from the gallows. Wait.
Yeah, that's right. You're good.
And so he now needed only to persuade the judge that they were mentally ill, a medical condition not at all equivalent or comparable to insanity, to obtain a reduction in their sentence. And Darrow needed only a reduction from death by hanging to life in prison to win his case.
Right. Which honestly, like, I could actually see them. I mean, they are fucking insane.
Yeah, they are.
But at the same time, they knew what they were doing.
They did.
Insane. It was pretty calculated.
Yeah.
They knew what they wanted to do. They just needed a person to do it.
So Crow also recruited a prominent group of psychiatrists for the prosecution. Crow was the state attorney. And all 4 testified that neither Leopold or Loeb displayed any sign of mental derangement. They examined both prisoners in office of the state's attorney shortly after their arrest. There was no defect of vision. Crone testified, no defect of hearing, no evidence of any defect of any of the sense paths or sense activities. There was no defect of nerves leading from the brain as evidenced by grate or situation or tremors, which is what one of the psychiatrists said, which was like, there's no way they're crazy.
Yeah.
They're just fucked up people. Which,
good for that psychiatrist.
Now we know that there's mental issues linked with that, obviously, but
it is, but like, they were just sinister assholes. What they were. Yes, I think they just thought they were smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
No.
Clearly, it is. Jesus Christ.
So at 9:30 in the morning of September 10th, 1924, Caverly prepared to sentence the prisoners. The final day of the hearing was broadcast on WGN, and there were groups of Chicagoans clustered around radio sets to listen, and the metropolis had paused in its morning bustle to hear what the verdict was.
Yeah, I would have stopped. It's like our Scott Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, any of those. It really kind of started with OJ.
Yeah. Was Ted Bundy before OJ?
And that, oh my God, yeah. And that was totally before. I was just a wee lady. So I wouldn't, I feel like OJ was like the first time that it was like, it wasn't just part of like the nightly news block, because you had Court TV. You could be running that shit 24/7. Ted Bundy was, I think, sensationalized, but not to the degree of OJ. So he was the one that really started that. So
Nathan and Leopold.
So
Leopold and Loeb, again, they had been 19 and 18 years old, respectively, at the time of the murder. So not 17 and 18, but 18 and 19.
Oh, that's better. It's not.
And it would be outrageous, Crow had argued, for the prisoners to escape the death penalty when others, some even younger than 18, had been hung for crimes.
No shit.
Yet, Caverly decided he would hold back from imposing an extreme penalty on account of the age of the defendants. He sentenced each defendant to 99 years for the kidnapping and life in prison for the murder. The verdict was a victory for the defense, but a defeat for the state. And Crow was furious at the judge's decisions. He was quoted to say that Leopold and Loeb had the reputation of being immoral, degenerates of the worst type. And he just basically ran his mouth and was like pissed and like, for a while after that, obviously. So in 1936, anyways, the boys ended up so Darrow won the case. They were not sentenced to death, but they were put in prison. Right. And I think they were put in prison in the same prison together. So
good.
I was like, yeah, that's fucking dumb.
Yeah, I think now if people like do a crime together, I'm pretty sure they don't put them in the same prison. No.
And I think they ended up moving one of them. I forget which one.
Yeah.
But in 1936, so I guess about 12 years after the murder, or after they were convicted, inside Statesville Prison, a prisoner serving a sentence for grand larceny stabbed Loeb in the shower room, and despite the best efforts of the prison doctors, Loeb, then 30 years old, died of his wounds shortly after. Good. And the reason he got stabbed was because Loeb tried to fuck him in the butt, and he was like, nope! Yeah, and then he stabbed him and killed him. So Leopold, on the other hand, so that was Loeb, he got fucking killed.
Good.
In jail.
Hope he kind of had a slow death, so he knew what that little boy went through.
He fucking sounds like he bled to death, so. So Leopold ended up serving 33 years in prison until he won parole in 1958.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah, dude. So at the parole...
Wait, Leopold was the one that was super obsessed? Or the other way around?
Loeb was the one that was really obsessed, and Leopold was like, oh, yeah, Leopold was obsessed with Loeb.
Right.
And Leopold was the one that just kind of tagged along, but also liked doing these things, but he wasn't, like, the mastermind as much.
So the one that died was the one that was...
Yeah.
Okay.
Karma's a bitch.
Yeah, it is.
Leopold served 33 years in prison until he won parole in 1958. At the parole hearing, he was asked whether he realized that every media outlet in the country would want an interview from him. And he responded to that with, I don't want any part of lecturing television or radio or trading on the notoriety, Leopold replied. The confessed murderer, who had once deemed himself a Superman, stated, all I want, if I'm so lucky as to ever see freedom again, is to try to become a humble little person. So upon his release, Leopold moved to Puerto Rico, and he lived a pretty obscure.
I mean, was he a poor guy? Like, did he not have any of his money, probably, or?
I think he just wanted to get out of the fucking country because.
No, but I mean, like, but did he have any of his family money left? Did he? Or does it not say?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the moral of the story is he just went to Puerto Rico and hung out.
I think he still had money because he like traveled back and forth to Chicago
Right.
and visited friends, but mainly lived in Puerto Rico.
Right.
He ended up marrying a woman named Trudy Garcia de Quevedo.
Oh,
That
Jesus.
is probably not how you say that.
It's Pinata. I mean, so you win.
Hey, what? Yeah. So he actually wrote a monograph on the birds of the island because he was the ornithologist.
Oh, that's right. He was into the birdies.
Yeah. So he got his love back for the birds.
So he really did. He
Actually like he exemplified someone who was
he was
not
like,
fixed
yeah, I
by the
fucked
system,
up
but he
and
didn't
I was,
fuck up after that.
Yeah.
And I feel like he got fucking lucky.
Yeah.
Like he should have been hung.
Yeah, he should have been hung.
And then he
wasn't
got
crazy.
off on parole.
Yeah, he wasn't crazy, and they should have been dead.
Yeah.
What they did to that kid.
So Leopold ended up dying at age 66
Oh, wow.
of a heart attack in Puerto Rico.
Sucks to suck.
And this murder is known as was known as the crime of the century and still was, even, in the last century.
Well, hopefully we bring it to new light.
And it was just so inexplicable for that time.
Yeah.
Like, people weren't murdering for fun yet, or at least they didn't know about it, and that was like the first convicted murderers
Like a
that
thrill
literally did it for fun.
Jesus.
So that's Leopold and Loeb. Thanks, Conan.
You're the
I love
best.
you. I do love Conan
I
O'Brien.
know. I do too. He's the best.
But anyways, that's it.
That's
I'm
good.
so glad.
That
I was
good.
like, Shay probably knows this
I
story.
didn't. So for it being the crime of the century, it's, nobody I think really knows about that one. So
I hope not.
they don't.
You didn't. I was
didn't,
surprised you
and
didn't.
I've listened
because
to
I
a
was like,
lot of
what?
them.
I know.
So that was awesome.
That
was
was
good.
Thanks. I was really excited about it.
It was a good one. That was some juiciness. There's
There's some
sex.
juice.
There was murder.
There was love.
There was love.
There was
murder in the
cousins.
shower.
There was blood and chisels.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right.
That's it.
All right. So
Time for science.
time for science. Okay. You ready for some science?
I'm ready to put my safety goggles on.
All right.
For science.
All right. So, I mean, I'm sure you heard about how Colorado decriminalized mushrooms.
I did.
So we're going to talk about some mushroom science.
Yes.
It's either
That's
drugs
exciting.
or murder for me, folks. That's
fine.
about as good as they get for
That's
science.
good.
So I'm going to talk about just some science behind what the mushrooms do to your brain, what the magic,
What's going on up there?
what the devil's mushrooms do to your brain. Now, I have never, just like a little disclaimer, I've never done mushrooms.
Me neither.
I am not. This is not a thing to go out and to say to go out and fucking do mushrooms. I'm not telling you that mushrooms are amazing and everything else because I don't know. But I'm just looking on the other side of the coin and
we'll
seeing
find
the
out
benefits.
someday.
Right. We will.
Mark my words.
Mark my words.
Just waiting for the perfect moment.
I know. You'll still get it. I know you will. So I'm just going to talk about the little definition about like the little definition. I'm just going to talk about just some studies that I've kind of done for just the benefits of microdosing and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, microdosing's like the new thing.
that is the new thing, and they do it with not just mushrooms. They do it with
Like
other
Molly and
a lot of people actually in Silicon Valley do it.
really.
It just helps them because it pulls down the borders of all the words.
Let's microdose right now.
Right? I might be microdosing right now. That's all.
I'm microphoning.
Yes. So, okay.
Shut up.
Oh.
What?
Anyway, okay. So, the definition. Just what are they? What are those
is
little
a mushroom?
Alice in Wonderland mushrooms? So, a psilocybin mushroom, aka magic mushrooms or shrooms, is the name given to the fungi that contain psilocybin, a naturally occurring psychedelic compound. There are more than 180 species of mushrooms that contain psilocybin or its derivative, psilocin. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Psilocybin mushrooms have a long history of use in Mesoamerica in spiritual and religious rituals and are currently one of the most popular recreational psychedelics in the United States and Europe.
Womp womp.
It's true, but I was never a cool kid and did drugs. Well, yeah, and I'm one of those lame asses that's actually allergic to like fucking weed. Well, I can do I'm all about doing edibles and like dabs, which is like, you know what? Instead of just doing grass, which is like a tame way to do it, I'm just going to go like, just give me the fucking Corvette, which is what I do. And it's just, it always ends up bad. Like one time I hit like a thing wrong, like on a rig or whatever, like the
little dab thing.
Like a little dab thing. And I was at
like the ones
one
that
of
you
our
light?
friends' house that I won't name who, but but I hit it way too. I think we were watching South Park or something, and I was not paying attention, and I was like inhaling as I was holding the flame on there, so I thought my lungs were on fire, and I was freaking the fuck out, and I think it hit my brain weird, and I was like actually hallucinating, and I was like, but I also couldn't breathe, and I had to like go outside. I was like, I have to go to the hospital. He's like, you cannot go to the hospital right now. It's gonna be fine. Like, please don't go to the emergency room. I'll get in trouble. Because I think it was before weed was legal. Anyway, so it took me like fucking like 4 hours to come down, but I swear to God, I was in my fucking nursery as like an infant. I was like seeing the walls of it and the colors. It was weird. It was fucked up. It just hit my brain really hard and really weird. Yeah. Anyway, so I take the Corvette out instead of taking the little Geo before.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Geo Metro.
So so yeah. So outside of that, I've not done any other type of drug. I'm a square, but that's okay. Anyway.
You're not.
Yeah, but that's okay. My drug of choice is right here in this glass over here.
Here it is.
It's full again. Whoops. Psilocybin mushrooms have been used in therapeutic settings to treat a wide variety of ailments and disorders, including cluster headaches, obsessive compulsive disorders, anxiety, depression, and addiction.
Really? Mushrooms?
Yeah, that's what.
That's
again,
the new
I'm
thing.
just trying to spread some knowledge that
Hell yeah, I'm excited.
Even though again, I'm not like pro go do fucking drugs because people like fuck the man and all that kind of stuff. I'm not. This is not what this episode's about. It's just me just looking into some science about like what.
Be responsible about your shit.
Yeah, for sure. Some researchers are starting to discover that many psilocybin's beneficial effects on mental health conditions may be due in its ability to reset a control system in the brain. The default mode network, the DMN, that's what it's also called, has been linked to depression and other mood disorders when overactive. Psilocybin has been shown to dramatically reduce the activity of the DMN. Say that 4 times fast.
DMN.
Exactly. Which has recently been linked to its antidepressant effects. So, just to give you a little info on like what like nobody knows what the default network does. This is what it does. It is the neurological basis of the self. So it's who you are pretty much. The thinking about others, remembering the past, and thinking about the future. So it defines who you are. So that's just your identity. So I know that might sound a little weird for psilocybin. It's just like to be an advocate about like, oh yeah, no, it shuts that down. Well, it makes the wheel stop going. So like if it's kind of a definition of who you are, then it's if you believe that this depressive whatever states that you have in your brain who you are, it shuts that down. So you can just look outside the box. It just shuts it all down and like just has you just look outside of yourself a little bit. So, and then other research has found that psilocybin causes the brain to become hyper-connected and allows for increased communication between different regions. It is hoped that this ability can be manipulated in order to manufacture drugs to treat neurological conditions, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So the chemical works by, and the chemical meaning psilocybin.
And it's natural.
And it's natural. Works by binding the same receptors in the brain as the neurotransmitter serotonin, which is that feel-good chemical that you get. This allows the drug to alter mood, which, while many people have a happy, meaningful experience, some can have a bad trip and experience extreme paranoia. Oh my gosh, which
Paranormal activity?
all the paranormal, and experience extreme paranoia. Oh my god, I cannot speak.
Paranoia ain't the way to live your life from day to day, so live. That's an NSYNC song.
I love it.
It's from Space Cowboy.
Oh. You are the winner, Brie.
Sorry, go ahead. I just had to put my 2 cents.
Extreme paranoia. There it is.
There, she got it.
Good God. Now where was I?
Paranorma. Ain't the
Paranorma.
way to live your life from day to day.
Oh yeah. Okay, so which is why set and setting is so fucking important. Which set and setting is, and the only reason why I know all this is because I work on a little show called Psychedelica, and it was a cool show just to
That's
expand your
badass.
mind. So set and setting is pretty much like don't take shrooms at a fucking EDM concert. You're probably gonna have a bad time, as that little South Park cartoon would say. It's gonna be a bad time if you do that. Do it with somebody you fucking know. Especially, like, again, like, I think in these studies they do it with, like, obviously very safe surroundings and stuff like that, like scientists, with doctors and people that have actually done their research.
I'd be really paranoid if I was around a bunch of scientists doing mushrooms.
Very fair. Like, I'm in trouble.
Your face is melting. You're a doctor.
I don't know. You told me to take this, but I feel like now I'm gonna get arrested. Yeah, so just it's so important. Like you have to set that right intention as well. So that's what they I don't know because I've never done them.
But
before.
that makes sense,
Right.
and that's
like you're gonna like depending on where you're who
Be
you
somewhere where
are
you're comfortable.
and where you're at. It is gonna depend on the kind of experience you're gonna have. So if you're gonna be in a loud chaos environment, that's probably
maybe
what
that's
you're
not
gonna
the best first experience.
Probably not, or ever. I don't even know. But and that depends on what you're going for. If you're going for that, like whatever, then you're using it probably for the wrong reasons or whatever. I mean, again, this is not about using it for any reason, but I just want to kind of keep emphasizing that. But yeah. Anyway, so prior studies have also shown that they have found that getting high on psilocybin doesn't just create a colorful psychedelic experience for a couple hours. It can cause neurological changes that last over a year. These changes result in a personality that is more open to creative arts and have become happier even 14 months after receiving psilocybin. The researchers saw that upon receiving psilocybin, the brain actually reorganized connections. So this is going back to the hyper-connected thing where they're finding, and linked previously unconnected regions of the brain. These connections were not random, but apparently very organized and stable. So, and once the drug wore off, the connections returned to normal. So there's like actual graphs of like your brain activity where it's like there's like 3 or maybe like 6 or 7 connections. And then when you see the brain on psilocybin, it's everything is talking to each other. So it pretty much opens all the doors. But again, depending on where you're at, and what your intention is, that could either be a really, really good thing or a really, really bad thing.
I think doesn't acid do that too? I mean,
DMT does it. A lot of those. I mean, LSD I believe does it too. A lot of those drugs have the same kind of undertone where it opens up all the essentially, for the lack of better words, beyond the veil kind of stuff. So again, but if you're not using it in the correct sense, if you're using it just to get fucking high, then you're just using it to get high. I mean, so it's all about the intention behind it, but that's anything you do in life, right? So
what if you're at a Hall & Oates concert at Red Rocks and you just want it
well,
to
let me
be
ask you
different?
this. Did you taste the music? Because that's part of it. Yeah. So that's what this also does. It says it confuses your senses, but it might just enhance them. Like, what if that's really true? Like,
when I was on acid, I thought, and I was at Red Rocks. Yeah. And at first, it was like the first hour, I was like, okay, I don't know about this. This is crazy. Yeah. And I felt really heavy. But then after it, like, I got out of that, I was literally like, holy shit. Also, speaking of senses, like, I felt like I was in the ground at Red Rocks. Like, I felt like I was inside the ground, like, in a crater, and we were, like, looking out.
Again, it blows all the doors open, so you just are in different dimensions. And that's what it claims. Again, I don't know, but, like, that's what it claims. And either that can be a good thing because it also is that it taps into a quote-unquote spiritual experience. So a lot of, because it's helping with depression and all these other things, they're saying, like, it's just making your brain use other parts of itself that it never had before. So yeah. So maybe you were in the ground. Who knows? Not like that.
Maybe
that
Red
sounds
Rocks
super
is.
creepy.
6 feet under.
Exactly.
I don't know why I yelled that.
So, here's what the current research says about the psilocybin treatment for some potential indications. Depression. So, depression is among the most researched indication for psilocybin therapy. As Healthline previously reported last year, psilocybin therapy was given breakthrough, like a quote-unquote breakthrough therapy designation by the FDA for the treatment of depression.
By the FDA?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if I'm saying this institute's name right, but I'm going to go for it. The Unison Institute, a psychedelic research center, is currently in the planning stages of their phase 3 trial, which will likely begin this year. So there's a lot of research on how this is curing depression because, again, like, that depressive state is in that default mode network, and so if you're shutting that down, it's helping people kind of come out of that and just really be it's a treatment plan.
And you don't have to take a bunch of fucked up pills every day,
right? Which is what they also say, like, a pill is just going to mask it. They're saying
it's masking, it's covering it up.
Yeah, with psilocybin, they're saying that it's actually making you, it's uncomfortable, but it's making you unlock what's going on and confronting that, and really just moving forward and not just like, okay, I'm going to take this fucking Zoloft and it's going to be like, I'm going to be numb. I
might have these insane side effects.
Right. I might, like anal leakage, but whatever. I feel kind of better.
Worse depression.
Right. Yeah. That's what my favorite side effects of, like, Zoloft is, like, it may cause depression. Great.
It's like, that's why I'm taking this.
Jesus. So smoking and other addictions. In a small pilot study from the Johns Hopkins University, researchers have found that psilocybin therapy significantly improved abstaining from smoking over a 12-month follow-up period. Matthew Johnson, a PhD, associate professor.
Gary Johnson.
For
president.
What is that from?
That's a man that ran for president.
Oh.
Last time we elected a president.
Well, there you be. Oh, shit.
I
did vote last year.
Gary Johnson.
So Matthew Johnson, PhD, associate professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine.
At Johnson and Wales University.
At Johnson and Wales. Holy shit, that is a long-ass title. Led that study. According to him, psilocybin also had potential to treat other substance use disorders, including alcohol and cocaine addiction. The general idea is that the nature of these disorders is narrowed mental and behavioral repertoire. Ooh. He told Healthline. So, psilocybin in well-orchestrated sessions has the ability to essentially shake someone out of their routine to give a glimpse of a larger picture and create a mental plasticity with which people can step outside of those problems. So, it's, again, breaking, like, just shutting down that self in you that has all the self-esteem shit and just shutting it down and going, reset.
Because, we tell ourselves fucked up shit every day, and then we just always believe it.
Absolutely.
And that's fucking cool.
It is very cool. I thought it was very fascinating. I didn't know that there was this much research into this, which, again, maybe makes more sense how it got passed. Decriminalizing something doesn't mean, like, it's not legal to have it on you. It just makes it, like, the lowest offense possible to have. Like, if you get caught with it, like, you're not going to go to fucking prison, probably.
It's not a felony anymore.
It's not a felony anymore.
But what else is? I don't know.
Well, actually, you might. 1 minute. Anyway, so. Oh, look, here it is. Okay, so. In fact, a small open-label study on psilocybin and alcohol dependence found that following treatment, both drinking and heavy drinking declined. And researchers in Alabama are also currently conducting trials for psilocybin therapy on cocaine addiction, which is fucking bizarre considering what the fuck is happening right now.
In Alabama.
Yes. So there are trials happening in Alabama right now on the drug psilocybin to fucking combat cocaine addiction. But you know what? Fuck women, right? Fuck them.
Cheers to that.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, anyway, that's surprise.
Nope, that's not the microphone.
That's not the mic. That's surprising as fuck.
When I read that, I was like,
Well,
I audibly screamed, "What?"
You can't get an abortion because you'll get a felony for it. So just take some mushrooms so you're not so sad. But
And
you're pregnant, so don't.
So try and figure out that sentence and make your brain not fucking explode. Oh my god. Anyway,
I think it's fucked.
so moving on. Cancer-related psychological distress. There's been promising preliminary results in such areas such as treatment of overwhelming existential anxiety in people who are facing the end of life, who have diagnosis of advanced stage cancer. Dr. Charles Grobe, professor of psychiatry at the UCLA, good God, these titles are long. David Geffen School of Medicine told Healthline. Grob, who's also affiliated with the Hefner Research Institute, has studied psilocybin extensively and authored research on the subject, including, among other things, a pilot study in 2011 on psilocybin treatment for anxiety in people with cancer.
Wait, people with anxiety too? It helps that?
It helps that. So a randomized double-blind trial from Johns Hopkins in 2000.
Can you look at my microphone really quick?
Oh, that's good. That looks nice. A randomized double-blind trial from Johns Hopkins in 2016 found that a single dose of psilocybin substantially improved quality of life and decreased depression and anxiety in people with life-threatening cancer diagnosis. So yeah, so it was a pretty short one this week, but it was just a little bit of like a little couple of facts and just how it just opens up your fucking brain. And I'll give you that picture of like the different remapping of the brain, so we can put that on the website.
Yeah.
Or on not the website, the Instagram. We don't got one of them websites.
We'll have a website someday.
One day.
Once I make my own business one.
It'll be fine. It'll be great.
Jesus. Get on it, Brianna.
It's fine. It's fine.
That's fucking super interesting.
Right.
And also really makes me want to do mushrooms.
That wasn't the point, but okay.
I mean, it
is. I mean, I've always been curious, but yeah, I mean, it is. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
It is.
It is, and it's just. I'm glad that this kind of research is coming out because obviously these plants are here for something.
They were used in Mesoamerica, like for like not just for just different doses for ritual and just for a spiritual awakening. It's like ayahuasca and all that kind of stuff where you're going deeper within yourself, and it's not just hallucinations. And I mean, that's my opinion, that it's not just hallucinations. It's
some people do it for that,
right? And it's something within yourself. That's something that is you're trying to unlock. It's deeply used for trauma. That if you have it harbored in yourself and you don't want to mask it anymore with like a fucking a pill, and it's uncomfortable 1000% if you're doing it in the way that you're looking to heal from it. But I just thought it was interesting. And honestly, everyone believed that it was not going to get passed to be decriminalized in Colorado. So
are we the only state?
I feel like Washington or Oregon was one of the other ones, but I don't think it's got passed. Duh.
They're the coolest.
Right? But like everyone don't move here. It's not that cool.
It sucks here.
It sucks. But there's also a lot of hilarious articles that people are like, well, now the Devil's Playground is opened up for business because people are going to move here.
The Devil's Playground is the fucking prescription drug industry. Like,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
you don't
for sure.
think that,
But I laugh
fuck
all the time
yourself.
when I see these articles.
I'm
Like,
sorry, don't go fuck yourself. Prescription drugs are good.
we'll edit it. Don't worry about it. We'll edit that out. It's okay. You're just very vocal about what you love. It's good.
I just know that shit. I mean, obviously people need prescription drugs, but also there's so many that are so addictive, so many horrible side effects.
And again, the drugs like this have gotten a bad rep. And again, this is coming from a person that I do not do drugs. I don't
alters your fucking
right. So there are people that do it for the wrong reasons, 1,000%. But there is a root level, especially stuff like plant medicine, like cannabis. I'm not talking about like cocaine. There's no room for there's no use for fucking cocaine, and there's no use for meth or anything like that. I'm talking about plant medicine like psilocybin and ayahuasca and marijuana and cannabis. So peyote is another one. I mean, those are humongous. I mean, they come from the earth, so they've
been using them for
but
thousands of
years for rituals. And ayahuasca is still used. Like, you have to go there and you have to eat clean for like 7 days in order to go do it and all this kind of stuff. And there are actual benefit, like there's beneficial properties in there to unlock your brain, but it is uncomfortable. It can be scary if you don't know what you're doing and if you're not with the right people. Also, there have been more deaths attributed to psilocybin in the sense of people going out and eating the wrong fucking mushrooms. Like, it doesn't even have psilocybin properties.
They're just like finding mushrooms in the
and they're
wilderness.
just going to the fucking forest and just like eating them like idiots.
That's a different mushroom too.
Right. So I don't think that there's been a whole, I mean, I didn't do my research on like if people like fucking hurt anybody while on mushrooms, but I know that there hasn't been death from people consuming mushrooms and then whatever, like consuming the psilocybin mushrooms or consuming too much. But people die from eating mushrooms by eating the wrong mushrooms because they're eating poisonous mushrooms that have they just pick them off the fucking forest floor. So don't do that, please.
Don't go foraging for psilocybin.
Oh my god, don't.
Probably.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Don't they grow out of like cow poop?
They do. They grow out, and that's where a lot of like the shamans got them from, because they were seeing that they were growing out of like cow dung. So they were and for whatever reason they're like, I'm gonna put this in my mouth. I don't know why. Yeah. So they probably were just curious, and then they're like, well, he didn't die. He just actually, now he's like the most enlightened of all of us. So who knows what that means?
So there's this boy that I went to elementary school with. His name is Joey Romero.
Okay.
Shout out. I don't know.
It's fine.
Anyway, when we were little, like, he told our class, I feel like we were in like 3rd, 4th grade, that his little sister ate mushrooms like in their backyard, and she got really sick.
Oh, Jesus.
She didn't die. Okay. But I'm like, did she eat some magic mushrooms?
Yeah.
Or they were probably just fucking
They probably were just mushrooms, like those little ones that they grow out like when it rains too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's probably that.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe she got fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I have heard that when you eat mushrooms, it makes your brain bleed.
That's another thing, but your brain doesn't actually bleed. So
that's just a fucking old wives' tale.
It's an old wives' tale. It doesn't actually make your brain bleed. No.
That's what I heard when I first started hearing about mushrooms. And
well,
I was like, oh my god, why would anyone do that?
You know what? It's part of that. It's part of that. That reefer madness where they demonized, just because they didn't understand what it was, and like, oh well, you're seeing colors, or you're tasting colors and you're seeing sounds, so you must not be right in the brain. And instead of going, well, what if it's because we're only using a part of our brain, and if it shuts down this one part and then it gets hyper connected and all the pieces of your brain is being used, like, what are we capable of? I don't know. And again, like, I've never experienced it. I couldn't tell you from my own personal experience. I think we're gonna
have to experience it.
We might have to.
And report back.
I'm gonna freak the fuck out, but it's fine. I feel like there's something to be said, especially if there's all this research being done on it. I mean, who knows? It could be all a pile of crap, but who knows? But if it's helping somebody, if it's helping a group of people,
and it obviously is
be
helping
functional
people.
Members of society, and being like, oh my God, I don't want to kill myself anymore, and I'm not hooked
It
on
obviously
whatever.
has proven results.
Right. If you're doing it, like, if you're not abusing it, and psilocybin has shown, like, it does not have any addictive properties. It's not like cocaine or like these synthetic fucking Western synthetic drugs that, you know, not like fucking like heart medicine, but like cocaine and shit like that. Ones that are like actually produced by man. It doesn't have those addictive properties. And neither does cannabis either. I don't think it does. Am I wrong?
It's not supposed to be addictive.
Right, but people love it because it makes you feel good. So, I mean, everything in moderation. You have to know your limit, and if you don't, then that is a problem. That's not really the drug. It's the person.
All about moderation.
It is all about moderation. So, I mean, again, like, so you just take what you want from this, but it's whatever. This is just me just spreading some knowledge and spreading some science about what it can do for the brain. But again, if you're not ready for it, don't do it. It might not be the right thing for you.
Yeah, that's not everyone's jam.
It's not everyone's jam, and it could fuck you up. It absolutely. So if you're the person that it does, I mean, like, if you feel like it's gonna fuck you up, don't fucking do it. Don't even do it. It's, you know.
Yeah, because if
I'm not sitting here advocating it at the same time. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it would be the right thing for me. I don't know. But like, for some people, it works, and they're not addicted to fucking cocaine or alcohol anymore, and it's the best thing that could have happened to them. Mm-hmm. But, you know.
And yeah, obviously, like, even with weed, like, everyone reacts differently to it.
Right. So, like, for me, like, it's not for me. Like, I can't do it.
And also, if you're going into a situation, like, super scared and, like, super worried about it, you probably shouldn't. Then don't do it. Like, why would you put yourself through that? Mm-hmm. Because it is a psychoactive.
Absolutely. And
I don't want to call it a drug.
No, it's a psychoactive plant medicine. And if you're not ready for it, then it's probably going to kick your ass. And it's probably not going to be the best experience that you're going to have from it. You're not going to grow from it. So, pun intended. And
grow.
So don't fucking do it. So don't do it. Or maybe, I don't know.
Only if you want to.
It's like the weirdest kind of peer pressure.
It's
do it, but don't. But if you don't really want to, then do it.
What?
What?
And science. Safety glasses off.
Science. All right. That was it. Let's roll.
It was good.
It was good. It was short and sweet. It was different. It's all good.
It was great. I learned some things. Did you learn some things? Send us a voice message and let us know.
Yes, please.
Anyway, should we roll?
Let's roll.
Do you want to roll?
We got to find the roller, though. I don't know where. Oh, I have one right here. I forgot my person.
I literally remember the first episode. I had like 8 dice, and the only dice we've ever used is the one that you've kept in your purse.
Only because
that's pink.
Because you're over here, you know.
We should take a picture of our dice. Holy shit!
Let's take a picture of that dice because it's a fossil.
Take a picture of that.
Take a picture of that. Most smartest.
You guys, we said that in the last episode. That's a quote from Drop Dead Gorgeous, and if you guys haven't watched that movie yet,
stop everything and go watch it right now.
Yeah, you're going to want to put it on your watch list. It's not on Netflix, though, so just buy it. If you see that movie, just fucking buy it. It's probably $5, and it'll be the best
in the discount bin
you've ever spent.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here I go. Here I go.
What'd you get?
2.
2.
I got Crime.
Your favorite.
Oh my God, it's my jam. I'm so fucking happy.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking happy.
Where'd that goddamn dice go? I'm gonna roll it over here. Ready?
Do it, girl. Go.
3.
Cooking.
Wait.
Oh wait, yeah, it's gonna be still food. We're changing it to food
instead of just cooking, because sometimes cooking.
Well, we just want to mix it up because you love to talk about food. You love to talk about everything food. So, and we should give you a fucking outlet for that. So sometimes it'll be like us cooking a recipe, and that's what we did the last couple episodes with cooking.
The demos,
and then other times it'll be like when you talked about the starter, doing some food history.
Exactly.
Or we also talked about like doing maybe going to a restaurant and doing some critiques
about the restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I think would be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, we are changing this topic to just food instead of just cooking.
So you'll never know what you're going to get?
You'll never fucking know.
Until it's the day. That Sunday. Bloody Sunday.
today it's orange juice mango sundae.
It is. It's a pretty mild dilute sundae, but it's fine.
It's fine. Perfect.
All right.
I felt like I wanted to shout out our Instagram.
Yeah.
Hey,
Look at
guys.
you remembering shit. I
know.
love it.
Hey, guys.
Are
Go
you
follow
listening?
us on Instagram.
It's me, Margaret.
And now, if you heard our ad and didn't skip through it like a good podcast listener, you heard that you can leave us voice messages.
Yeah, please do. Like, it's actually kind of a cool feature that I think we actually would utilize.
Yeah. So, like, you can apparently, wherever you're listening, you can click a link in where the podcast is.
Yeah, it'll be like in our show notes, and it'll click a link. So you'll have to like make a Anchor account, because that's where we launch all of our podcasts out of. Just so they can trace you, and so if you're like, go fuck yourselves, we're like, well, we know who sent us that.
Exactly. So you guys aren't secretive to us.
Yes.
But yeah, so
no, but really, yeah.
You could leave us like a little voice note or a topic suggestion or a little comment. All right. Well, that's it.
That's it.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.